The Civil War Uncovered is brought to you by Minelab Americas. Welcome to episode 4 of the Civil War Uncovered. As the campaign of 1863 drew to a close, Union General George Gordon Meade was criticized for not taking advantage of his July victory at Gettysburg and for not aggressively pursuing General Robert E. Lee in drawing the rebels into a decisive battle. In November, Meade formulated a solid plan to steal a march on Lee and strike his flank by sending Generals French, Sedgwick, and Warren around the right of the divided rebel forces. Rain and muddy roads delayed the launch of the campaign by 2 days, and in that time, Confederate scouts observed the staging of the Union troops, and the element of surprise was lost. Lee began to shift his men to meet the Federal threat. For 2 days, the armies fought and maneuvered through cold rain and mud. On November 29th, General Warren's corps tried to swing around and strike the Confederate right flank, but ran out of daylight before they could attack. The rebels worked through a freezing night, and by the morning of November 30th, they had strong entrenchments and fresh troops from A.P. Hill's corps. There was heavy skirmishing and an hour-long Union cannonade, but in the end, Meade and Warren both knew it would be suicide to attack the Confederate works across an open field. So Meade, knowing it would cost his career personally, suspended the campaign. Both armies then went into their winter quarters, and the major fighting ended until the spring of 1864. In this episode, we explore the area of the final day of the Mine Run campaign. Our team visited the battle site 3 times between the summer and the fall.
Thank you for joining us. My name is David Shackleton. I'm joined with Bob Painter and Kevin Owen with Minelab's The Civil War Uncovered. Today we have the honor of visiting a piece of private property in Orange County that was part of the Mine Run campaign. And I think Bob is going to tell us a little bit about the property before we get started.
Yes. Right directly behind me is a Confederate trench line, which is part of the Mine Run campaign in November and December of 1863. The Confederates had a line 5 miles long, and they had 56,000 troops at the campaign. The Federals, just opposite and further behind me, they had around 95,000 troops in a line 5 miles long. And basically they faced off with each other for 3 days until the morning of December 1st. The Confederates woke up and there wasn't a Federal soldier to be found. So this was, the Mine Run campaign was the largest Civil War battle that never happened.
We've got external speakers so you can hear some of the action, and we're looking forward to you following along with us and seeing what comes out of the ground.
Now this is the actual trench line area. The trench line has got filled in over time by farmers, you know, for farming purposes. So you really can't see it, but it's here. Looks like it's going to be under that big rock. I'm just being real careful. Oh. Aha. Now this is going to be a button. Whenever you see that little bit of green there and you're on Confederate territory, you want to dig real careful. Just barely see that little piece of round brass that's going to be a button. And to the right you'll see the shank sticking up. Buttons with shanks are good. And that turns out to be an eagle button, which is associated with the Federal troops. But like I said, the Confederate jackets had as many of these as they did Confederate buttons. And I think it's We'd call this a plain Jane. It's not going to have any gold gilting on it, and it doesn't have anything in the center but a shield. Some of them have an I, a C, an A on the breast of the eagle, and it's all there. And the reason I keep going back and forth in different directions, I'm trying to find the center of the target so I don't dig right into it. I should have brought my knife. I forgot it again. One thing about relic hunting, it pays to be patient. Take your time. Take your time and pace yourself, especially when you're old like me. You can see the outline of something there. See a little bit of white right there. All right, bullet, come out of there. Oh, this could be an interesting bullet too. I think it's an infield. Sure enough. Confederate infield bullet off the Confederate trench line at the mine run campaign. There's a whole variety of infield bullets. Some people, that's all they collect because they have such variation. This is going to be a cone back one. There's another kind that has a flat place inside, and sometimes you find numbers and letters inside of them, which is good. That low sound sounds like a bullet to me. And then when it has a little higher, sharper sound, it possibly brass. Since I think it's a bullet, I'm going to risk it. And just dig it out there. And sure enough, there's a bullet. And for sure we got us I don't know, another infield. Thought it was going to be 2 rings. Infield number 2. So obviously these soldiers right here had infields.
How about a tip to help you work better in the field with your metal detector?
Hi, I'm Kevin Hoagland from Minelab Americas, and I'm here today with the folks from the Civil War Uncovered to bring you a few technical tips for better using your metal detector. For the best recovery, swing speed, swing height, and good coil control is a must. Keep your coil low to the ground. Go slow, keep it flat, and overlap every swing as you move forward. At the end of your swing, never arch. Proper coil control is the secret to becoming successful with any metal detector. Follow those simple tips, keep your eye on your coil, and you too will be successful.
Yeah, one of Bob's favorite places to dig is right at the base of trees. What he was telling us on previous hunts was that the roots of the trees will push the ground up, and sometimes relics will come up, closer to the surface with the tree roots. So, spoken with experience. Once again, he's right. This one's right here at the base of a tree. I like the sound of that one. Right on top of it. Right on top of that root. That's a big root. Hopefully it's not under it. It's shell fragment. Yeah, it looks like a fragment to a shell. Maybe it's thick in its iron and it's got a little bit of curve to it. So maybe a piece of artillery. Cool. I'll go back to headphones till I find another one. Johnny Yankee. Look at this. Oh. Johnny Yankee. Waiting for the Rebs. Come on, Rebs in the wire! Get up, take a peek, take a few shots, and run. Little tiny pieces of shell, artillery shell. There's still more down there. You can see the rock and the clay. There's a piece right there. Pretty thick piece there. Short air time for this little piece of iron, probably about 3,000 feet at the most. From that hill to the Union soldiers hiding in these woods in a trench. That's it.
Earlier in our show, you saw Relic Bob find bullets from an Enfield rifle on a Confederate battle line. Reenactor and firearms expert Steve Davis tells us more about Enfield rifles and ammunition.
This is the Enfield. This is an original. It was made in 1862 at the Tower Arsenal in England. It has the crown marking and 1862 Tower on the lock plate. It's caliber 5.77 and shot the same mini ball style that the U.S. Springfield shot. It was loaded generally with about 60 or 65 grains of powder, and the majority of the soldiers carried the 3-band rifle musket. This was called the rifle musket because it had rifling, but it was musket length, whereas the earlier long guns were called muskets. They were smooth bores as opposed to being rifled and were less accurate. These were actually fired in matches in England out to 1,000 yards and had the adjustable sight, the slide, and the little ladder. They were very effective when used against human targets. They were often not used effectively by the troops because when they fired by volley, they would jerk the trigger and were not precisely firing. In aimed fire, they could be quite deadly. And as I say, out to 1,000 yards. The majority were probably fired 100 to 300 yards during the war. There was the mini-style projectile developed by a Frenchman named Minie, M-I-N-I-E, and it is cast with a hollow at the base that when fired, it allowed the actual projectile to be smaller than the bore diameter. When it was fired, that bottom skirt would expand to engage the rifling and thus give the accuracy to the projectile and impart the spin from the rifling. This weapon was imported in fairly large numbers from England and was used by both sides during the war, the ammunition being relatively interchangeable. It was only 300 thousandths difference in the diameter of the projectiles, so the ammo could be shot either in the Springfield or the Enfield. There was a slight difference in the projectiles manufactured in the different countries and by the North and the South, but they were all essentially interchangeable. And so if
If need be, you know, you could pick up ammunition from a fallen comrade or a fallen enemy, if need be. Or, if need be, if you had the ammunition, you could pick up his weapon and use it.
Here I am carrying a $3,000+ metal detector and a $6 shovel. The shovel performs as well as the machine for what it's intended to do. It should be visible. I should not need a pinpointer for whatever this is. It seems humongous. Oh, it's hiding in a crack. Oh, we finally found us a nice bullet, a round ball. That's 69 caliber. See, it's kind of a large, definitely Civil War. Definitely 69 caliber. There's two types of round balls. One is a standard, just plain old round ball. It comes by itself. And sometimes, if they're loaded in the gun and then taken out, you can see these little dimples on them. Little dimples where becomes a bucking ball. There was a round ball with 3 buckshots in the cartridge. And the reason I wanted to look at that is because we dug this right there, and we dug a buckshot over here, which could be a part of this as a buck and ball, but you never know for sure unless you see the little dimples in it, and I don't see them. But it's still cool. Finally, a mine run bullet on the federal side. See if another little bucky ball's in here somewhere. Well, that's already amazing. Something else right there, but it's got a different sound. A good sound, but steady. It's not warbling. That's why you always run your coil back over the hole a second time, because there could be something else in the hole. Well, that kind of stuff goes with a campfire. You find a whole bunch of pieces of melted lead and who knows what else. And there's another 69 caliber round ball. And that was the good signal that was there. 69 caliber round ball. And it's a big bullet.
Now, That's interesting. A big old thick piece of iron. It almost looks like a tuning fork or something that's been split.
Drop it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what he thinks about that.
Well, let's take a look and see what it is. Small. Hey, I got lucky. And I think I just dropped it. I think I know what it was. It's a little piece of, there it is. Buckyball. These could be buck and ball 69 caliber round balls with 3 buckshots. They come in 58 and 69 caliber, and they would come with a large round ball and 3 buckshot, a big round ball, and a tube of black powder, and they called them buck and ball. You would take and tear the powder end of the cartridge off, pour the powder in, and then push the whole thing down in with the buck and the ball still wrapped in the paper. Shove it right down in the barrel. When you fired it, you had 4 bullets coming out of the barrel. Somewhere they did a study after the Civil War. They wanted to see how accurate a rifle was with just a round ball versus what kind of damage would happen if you used buck and ball instead. And they set up a bunch of paper silhouette targets, and they fired a couple volleys with just round balls, and I forget the exact numbers, but you know, they hit a target or two. You know, maybe 10% of the targets were hit by a round ball. Then they loaded up all the rifles with buck and ball, and they fired at the same targets, and something like 80% of the targets were hit by something. So apparently it was a very effective cartridge to use, probably more short range than long range. So this is a hard place to hunt. You don't always go relic hunting and find a lot of stuff, but no. One thing about it, everything you do find is historical. It's saving a relic from the Civil War.
Well, I've had a lot of fun.
Oh, me too.
Once again, thank you for relic hunting with me. It's been a pleasure, always is. Every time I'm with you, I learn something. Your mission between now and the next hunt is to figure out what that is. And all the other ones, I'd love to know what that is.
I can do it.
I bet you can.
That is part of the musician's tools. When they get ready to play before the battle, this was a tuning fork, and they'd strike it and they'd all get in key. Now if you can find the rest of it, that's pretty rare. Tuning fork.
I'm not believing them, just so you know.
As we say goodbye for this episode, we'd like to leave you with a special preview, so stay tuned. Right after our credits roll, you'll see a feature on a special event at an historic presidential property.
My name is Lance Crosby. I work here at Montpelier as a metal detector technician with the archaeology department. Number one, being on a historic property is mind-blowing. It's incredible. It's an incredible work atmosphere. Just to be part of anything uncovering part of Madison's past is incredible.
What's interesting, especially for you guys, what I'm doing right now is we thought we were done in this area. It's all flat. And then Lance came in with a metal detector and found a bunch of hits. So I am responsible for going through and digging out what hits that he's found.
My name is Matthew Reeves. I'm Director of Archaeology here at James Madison's Montpelier. A lot of times at a site like this, you've got no indication of where the buildings are, so you have to use survey techniques to find where these structures are located. One way that we've done this in this area, basically from where the line of excavation is here all the way back to the visitor center, we've used remote sensing such as metal detector surveys where we grid the area off in 10-foot squares and then do metal detector sweeps, and in each one of these squares count the number of hits that occur in each 10-foot square, plot that on a map, and then where there are concentrations, we know there's some sort of building that was there.
Matt, you brought Lance in how long ago on this project?
It was about 3 years ago.
And why did you bring him in?
Brought him in initially, we were doing surveys of an area of woods. And with using metal detector technology with my own staff, we weren't able to get the results that I thought we should be getting. So I talked with Lance. He came out for about a month on a volunteer basis, started finding these sites, because Lance has about 30 years of experience behind the metal detector he uses, and started to find these sites in an efficient way that I knew I couldn't afford not to have Lance on staff helping us with this process. And what we've been able to do over the past 3 years is really grow the technique of metal detecting in such a manner that it cross-cuts every aspect of the surveys and excavations we do. We're able to use the metal detector technology to figure out features that would take us, a month to be able to figure out with Lance. It's about, an afternoon.
Mm-hmm. And you said you couldn't afford to do it without him, so he's really become pretty indispensable to your operation here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's very cool. That's a lot of fun.
It's a little bit different than what you're normally used to, is digging, finding a signal, digging it, finding a signal, digging it. But here, you got to look at it as a long-term project. So you'll see this go from the skewers going into the ground to eventually to the site like we were up on the hill.
Oh yeah.
To it being down in some places 2-3 feet. You're not now just looking at one small hole with one artifact, you're looking at the whole site.
Yeah, you're looking at a very big site. Really, as far as the grid hunting and things like that, that's just, that's what everybody should be doing no matter what.
But as a metal detectorist, this is something that, it's not a quick fix. It's not a quick artifact recovery. This is a long, ongoing process, and I tell you, it's very exciting to start it off and to see where it finishes.